right. Wow. Is this exciting or what? Okay. Y'all hanging in there? We're good? Ready for two more great speakers? You know, I've known the author of this book called The Missing Link. I've known her now for 4 or 5 years. And she's been a tremendous motivation to me because of what she went through. And in the water, I'm talking about Valerie Green, a co-author of the book called The Missing Link at 6A Tools right outside. And she had a stroke back when, and she opened up a foundation called the B Center, and she's the founder and CEO. And she's done tremendous work with this water, and she's co-authored it with Dr. Mojka Renaud. But at this moment, I would like to bring Valerie Green out, the co-author of the Missing Link in Health book, to show you and share with you a little bit about this, and then she's going to bring on Dr. Mojka Renaud. Welcome. How are you? Thank you. Appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Hello. Have you ever had anybody in life come along and really help you, that cared about you and really wanted to help you? Well, I thank God for the lady and the doctor you're getting ready to meet, because that's what she did for me. She reached out and really cared about me and helped me. A lot of people ask me over the years, how in the world did you go from crippled and paralyzed and unable to speak? Well, with the help of God, of course, and her guidance, I am who I am today. And it's been a real experience. It's pretty bad when someone tells you you'll never walk or talk again, and you go back and look at them and go, wrong. It's been a journey, no doubt. It is a privilege and honor to welcome Dr. Mojka Renaud. She's originally from Austria. She's world-renowned. She has treated my family and friends and many of you here today, and we all are astonished at her abilities and her love and care for all of us. So help me give a warm welcome to Dr. Mojka Renaud.
Hello? Can everybody hear me? Okay. I have to thank Valerie, because without Valerie I would have never written the book, because she pushed me basically to say, you have all this information, you have to put it together in a book so other people can benefit from that. And you know, when you're working in a clinical situation, you never have enough time set aside to actually spread the word, because you're always working with people one-on-one. So I'm very grateful to her that she actually helped me put it all together and get it in a printed form.
Dear, I just need to...
Okay. So today I want to talk to you about being in clinical practice for 30 years now. What is important in a clinic for all the doctors out there, for all you people who are talking to doctors? There's only 2 things that actually keep your health. And that's that you're able to detoxify and get nourishment into the system. And people are so toxic today, they cannot get the nutrients into the cells. So that's what we all do all day long, trying to figure out what's the right path to take. So I put these slides together, and it's going to start with 2 basic elements, which is water and the earth. The earth gives you all this nourishment, the water gives you the nutrients, the water carries the nutrients that the earth gives you into the cells. So ancient water was very purified water. It was glacial water up in the mountains that carry all kind of nutrients and minerals into the cells, and that's how we got nourished. But nowadays it's a little bit different. Now, all of you have, or some of you might have heard of Dr. Emoto and his work on water. He was the first one that said water has memory, and you heard Dr. Knight talk about water has memory today. And whatever the water comes in contact with, it will carry into the cells. So here's the nourishment that the water will carry in, very vital, and we need microclustered water to carry this into the cells, because the water today is so polluted it does not ever reach the cells. So whatever the water comes in contact with, of course, gets to the cells as well. And that's all your pollutants out there. And I hope all of you can see the slides. It comes from everywhere. What you flush down the toilet, the drugs that you take, other people take them as well because, you know, they're going to get it through the water. And there's Dr. Emoto's work, and he showed us how perfect water should look. He would take water and freeze it and then take the pictures. And when you whispered something, a positive word, a positive sentence into the water, you would get this kind of crystal formation. And this is water that's polluted, the river water and distilled water. Distilled water is flat water, does not have any nutrients in there, has no electrical charge, cannot carry any nutrition to the cells. In fact, it has to pull out your minerals in order to be metabolized through your system. So it's more detrimental than it's good. So this is tap water. Okay, everybody heard about the Hansa people. There's a lot of debate as to how old they really got. So a lot of more research needs to be done. But I come from the mountains in Europe. I grew up in Austria, and we lived in 4,000 to 6,000 feet height. And I was able to enjoy microclustered water. We didn't know then it was microclustered because it just came like that. It ran all night long to a fountain, and we would go there, trap the water, carry it in the house, and drink it. And there were many people in my town that reached to be 100. So I know they enjoyed the kind of health because of the water that they drank, besides they ate off the land. And I did a study on centenarians. Most of them that reached to be 100 or more lived in those high mountain regions in areas that was the least polluted, where they had very, very clean glacial waters. So here's some of the pictures I took when I was in Europe last. You can see the bluish tint on the slides, on the lakes. That's the glacial water. You could see 30 feet deep into the ground. You can see the fish all the way to the bottom of the lake. You see how bluish the waters are. Our source water comes from something totally different. Once the water is purified, then it gets dumped back into the rivers, and from those rivers we scoop up the water again and pipe it to the people's homes. So you're going to get all kinds of pollutants along the way. So lead, I do testing with German biological medicine. So I can see what is in a person's body as far as chemicals, pollutants, heavy metals, parasites, viruses, bacteria, whatever it might be. And I see lead still in everybody. I see mercury in everybody. I see a lot of radioactive substances in everybody. And I also noticed my first exposure to Kangen water was that it came from my upline that exposed me to the water, and he brought a gallon over. And I've already studied microclustered water at that point, but I never had it in a form you could drink it and it tastes really good, you know. So I saw that when he was being tested, that all of a sudden, since he started drinking the water, he had a high chemical load being released from his system. And I tracked it for a few months in a row, and the chemicals go down more and more and more till it almost came up as normal again. So that's how my experience was, and I have seen this over and over again. When people drink microclustered water, highly charged microclustered water, not every system can do that. Then they have the chemical releases that I normally don't see. And it's amazing how much faster people recover when they have ailments, when they have good nutrition, and when they have the microclustered water. It's essential in every doctor's practice, in my opinion, that you have those two, because you cannot restore health unless you have good food and good water. Here's a city water pipe. Now, if you remember, the water has memory. We are bathing, we are drinking this kind of pollutants. Many chemicals in the US, and most of them are not tested. There's only so many that they consider generally recognized as safe. And we don't know how they act together once they get into the body. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit more today about the most recently discovered chemical threats in the water. They're called xenoestrogens, or they call them gender benders. Dr. McKnight talked about that briefly, and I think more scientists are spending a lot more time checking what this really means. And it means that we're becoming feminine. We're becoming feminized. It starts with the animals and the wildlife, and then it also affects the people. We're in the same food chain. But they cause all kinds of endocrine disruptors, disruptions, biochemical reactions internally that turn into disease. Now here's how many of you remember Agent Orange. That's a typical example of an endocrine disruptor or a gender bender. They cause all kinds of deformities. And we still have many of these chemicals in use. 4 of the 5 chemicals from Agent Orange are still heavily in use today. Here's a picture of a genetic mutation. What are the most estrogenic foods? I mean, estrogens can definitely come in foods too. And the pesticides in conventionally raised fruits and vegetables, one time we thought only plastics have this estrogenic effect. Because plastics were investigated in 1891 as an estrogen replacement. But it was abandoned later on because they realized it was toxic. But we've known since then how bad plastics are. So has there been any warning labels or anything posted anywhere? If you drink too much out of plastic bottles, you can change your genetics, or you can change the makeup of your organs. You don't hear anything anywhere. Hormones in beef and chicken, 80% of the antibiotics produced are going to animal feed. So if you don't take any drugs, you're still getting them because you're getting them from the animal meats that you eat, unless you eat grass-fed beef or hormone-free chickens. So this is the food, so we're all getting them. Okay, let me step back for a step. Hops beer. Do you ever wonder why men that drink a lot of beer have these beer bellies? Beer, look, 3.5 ounces contains 300,000 units of estrogen. So beer lowers testosterone. So you want a glass of beer or a glass of Kangen water? Or if you have a glass of beer, how many glasses of water you have to drink to counter the effect of the beer? Okay. So most common endocrine disruptors, bisphenol A is in plastic bottles, which pretty much everybody's educated on that now. Can't drink plastic anymore. Phthalates are plastics. You know, you drink out of paper cups, plastic plates, plastic bags in the grocery store, plastic everywhere, right? There is an island 2/3 the size of Texas that's floating somewhere in the Pacific Island. That's a huge island with nothing but plastics. And the fish are coming up at night and nibbling on this plastic island. Now, it's all these plastic bottles that they have dumped into the oceans, and because of the jet stream of the oceans, it carries it to this one area where all this plastic accumulates. And that's how it formed this huge island. Okay, let's see. Dioxins are bleaching chemicals. These dioxins you find in an oily toilet paper, everything that's white. So we use it every day in everything. All the napkins, paper napkins, you wipe your mouth with, right? All pesticides and herbicides. So again, we thought that maybe there's just certain chemicals like PCBs, atrazine, and all these that are chemical disruptors and endocrine disruptors. It's all the pesticides. The more testing they do, the more they find that all the pesticides are foreign to the body. They have a similar estrogenic effect. Okay, so here's bisphenol A. They've already known how estrogenic, but I want you to pay attention. It can cause diabetes, insulin resistance, uterine fibroids or disorders, prostate tumors and cancers, miscarriages, breast cancers, testicular cancers, and hyperactivity. Okay, I talked about the plastics. They were investigated in 1891. Okay. Now, here's the latest chemical that is more widespread than we ever thought, and it's called glyphosate. Glyphosate is one of the chemicals that is used in Roundup, and Roundup is used for most of our soy, corn, and wheat today because they are genetically modified seeds. And because they're genetically modified, they're supposed to withstand more pesticides. So now the companies can use 100 times more pesticides on those plants than they were originally able to use because the plant would otherwise die. Now, if you picture that, if they just planted some corn and they're spraying this cornfield with 100 times more Roundup, the corn plant absorbs that into the body and the rest of it falls off. But where does that all go? Into the groundwater. So, consequently, because all the soy, wheat, and corn is genetically modified in the US, unless it is called organic, we're all getting it. Okay? So I've listed all the things you find it in, even flax seeds, or there's some names that you might not be aware of that are also genetically modified derivatives like maltodextrin, citric acid, ascorbic acid, your so-called vitamin C. Now, what does it do? Okay, here's pictures of rats fed corn for 6 months in France, and they developed tumors that were half the body size. Okay, 2011 study detected glyphosate in 60 to 100% of all US air and rain samples. So there was a widespread glyphosate contamination in groundwater. So they've already known that, 2011. They checked some volunteers from 18 countries, 182. They were tested for glyphosate in the urine, and they were all city creatures. They didn't even live in the countries where you get exposed to more pesticides. And 44% tested positive. Now, that's in spite of the fact that most European countries already outlawed GMO seeds. There's just a few left. This is a pig's stomach. You know, in the clinic, we see so much incidence now, so many examples of H. pylori infections, stomach problems, acid burning, indigestion, heartburn. And the bacteria that's usually responsible for that is H. pylori. But I was thinking, why am I having such an increase of this condition in the last 10 years? And then I saw this study with the stomach of pigs. If you look at the top picture, you can see that it's a kind of still light brown, and the bottom is red and inflamed. So there's a lot of inflammation that you receive from eating GMO foods. This was a 3-week diet of GMO foods. Okay, California allows 1,000 times more glyphosate in drinking water than needed to cause breast cancer. They've already determined that. Glyphosate induces human breast cancer cells via the estrogen receptors. We have more proof there, right? And it has been linked to all these conditions already. Each person in the US consumes on the average 290 pounds of pesticides and other chemicals per year. That came from the Environmental Working Group. Can you picture that? So then we have other insults, radioactive metals. This is the radioactive flume in Japan last year. You can see it almost spread all the way across the US already. Plutonium, only 1/1,000,000th of a gram can cause cancer. Radioactivity in the oceans. In the last 3 days, it had cesium-137, one of the toxic radioactive compounds, has increased by 9,000% in the last 3 days, just came out. Aerial spraying, drugs in the water, fish are full of prescription medicine, and of course we drink this kind of water, right? The contamination of the North Sea, they found that the whole North Sea is contaminated with one drug, and it's statin drugs. And in the US, we use 100 times more statin drugs than in European countries. The effects on our health is, of course, all the endocrine changes and cancers. How do we store these chemicals? In our fat cells. So here's the fat cells will swell to whatever size they need to be to store these chemicals, and that's how you get cellulite. That's all just fat cells. So this is the adipose tissue visceral fat. That's how we store it. And this obesity that's rampant in the U.S. is costing the U.S. $167 billion annually. So there's a big market for the water there to help to reduce this toxicity and get people to lose more weight. So here's an estrogenic effect, right? Typical example. And how do we protect ourselves from this toxic effect of estrogens? I hope you can all read this because I'm running out of time. But you avoid GMO foods, go with organic. Whenever possible, you avoid exposure and use of environmental chemicals. You go green at home. You can find substitutes for everything they're using that's chemical toxic. And avoid synthetic skincare products. Dr. McKnight talked about that already too. And you drink plenty of microclustered, highly energized water to help flush these toxins out. Okay, I would like to invite you to our booth with Vera and I. We're going to do some book signing. If you want to get this book, we talked, a lot of the slides you've seen are actually in that little book. Okay, I wish you all good health and drink up to your health.
All right. Sorry about that. We got a little tied up back there. Okay. Thank you, Mojka. I really appreciate that wonderful presentation. Can we just do one more, doctor, before the break? Let's just get one more in, okay? I've got a tremendous, are we ready in the back? Okay, great. We've got a tremendous doctor from the Buffalo, New York area. We heard him earlier yesterday, and he has got a powerful presentation on what this water is doing in his practice. Dr. Kurss from Buffalo, New York. Come on out.
So everyone stand up for a second. Okay. I want everyone to start clapping as loud as they can if you're really excited, okay? Loud, loud, loud. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Good. Okay, let's hold it now. I want to do that because in the interest of time, not yours, mine, because I have a lecture next door I have to give. So I thought I would start with the end of the talk. I want to thank you very much for coming. And just kidding, just kidding. Everyone sit down, make yourself comfortable, okay? Okay, it looks like I don't have my slide set up here in front of me, but I'll use the one back here unless you have an opportunity to do that, okay? For those of you who don't know, my name is David Kurss. I'm a practicing obstetrician gynecologist for about 30 some odd years. I founded, own, and operate the Women's Wellness Center of Western New York, which houses a lot of alternative as well as traditional approaches to women's health. I teach at the university, I do a lot of surgery, and I lecture around the whole country on a whole variety of women's topics. So today we're going to be talking about, obviously, Kangen water and how ubiquitous it is. I'm going to push this slide, but I understand that this is not functioning, so you need to go to the next slide for me. Hello? Okay, there we go. So all of us are very, very familiar with the benefits of the Kangen water. I call it the AAA rating. Alkaline, antioxidant, and absorbable. Everyone's familiar with that. AAA, correct? You may not have heard it that way before, but okay, we're going to go to the, oh, I guess the slides are working now. Also, I call about something 3 Ps. Every person is perfused with the properties of the drinkable Kangen water system. So, it's important for us to realize that all of these properties, we're perfused with this in all of our entire body, and that helps us, and it's critical for our health. So, we've all heard about health and optimal health. And many of us, how many here have heard about the balance of mind, body, and spirit? Just with a show of hands. Everyone has, because it's one of the Enagic's adages, correct? So, but what does it mean? I mean, we all hear about, okay, we have mind, we have body, we have spirit. What does it mean? It sounds cliche. How do I know what part is what? Obviously, right? So, and the point I wanted to make about that is, first of all, and I think Dr. McKnight mentioned it before and others, that in medical school, we are trained to can I go back one slide, please? When we are trained to think about disease. That is, I'll try on my own, here we go. That is the absence, health is the absence of disease, dis-ease, we've heard that before. However, that's what we're trained in medical school. We think about a disease and we diagnose it and we treat it, but we don't think about prevention that much. And so low has it gone frequently in schools that even when we're making rounds, we don't even think about the person with the disease. We make rounds and someone said, did anyone see the appendix in room 303? Right? So the bottom line is it's important for us, we are humans, we are all together, and we need a balance of mind, body, and spirit to maximize our health. So, if we take a look at spirit, what is spirit? It's our life force, it's who we are. It's a connection to something that is limitless and beyond us. And how exactly do we tap into that? With prayer and with meditation and through love. Now, many, many years ago, I did a lot of teaching on yoga and meditation. I won't have time. If we had more time, I would take you through a meditation here. But I think it's important to focus on the fact that our essence is spirit. Now, another component is our mind. You're using your mind right now to absorb what I'm saying. You are integrating the information I'm giving you. It's emotional. It is also what we use when we think about our creativity, self-awareness, intellectual aspects, business, self-improvement. All of these things are associated with the mind. The body houses the mind and spirit, and it enables you to function day to day, and it gets you to where you're going. So all of these components are very, very important, and we want to balance them and refine each area to improve our health, mind, body, and spirit. Now, everyone has heard of the Dalai Lama, Nobel laureate, head of the Buddhist movement, and additionally, he sat for an interview in Sydney, Australia, and this journalist decided before he interviewed the Dalai Lama, he wanted to start off with a joke. So, he recounts the story about this very devout monk who is very focused on unity, but he's also starving, he's hungry. So, focused on unity, starving, goes into a pizza shop, tells the clerk, make me one with everything. Okay, so now the Dalai Lama did not admittedly understand that there may have been a language difficulty, I'm not sure what, but I thought that was telling, and here's a little cartoon that says, make me one with everything. Now, when I found this cartoon on the internet, I thought not only that was kind of interesting, but look how much they're charging. Soda is $1.50, and the water is $2. Well, that's good. I mean, the soda is $2.50. They're charging more for soda. Do they have it wrong? Right? We should be charging more for water than soda, right? Obviously. So the bottom line is we're talking about a balance of mind, body, and spirit. And our president and CEO talks about true health and incorporated a financial component into health. So it's not only mind, body, and spirit, but also a financial component. As a matter of fact, that's one of the concepts when we talk about return to origin, is to basically capture the profits and return it to the distributors. So that's a component, another leg of health. Now, when we're trying to balance the mind, body, and spirit, and work on mind, and work on body, and work on spirit, there are 10 different fundamentals that I've been talking about for 25 plus years. They include a spiritual connection to something beyond us. We don't want to be confined by our just rational mind. Attitude, we're all familiar with, unfortunately, let's say someone very elderly who dies and their spouse dies within a few days of that. If an attitude, a poor attitude, can make someone die, you know that it can negatively impact upon our health. Air is important. We can't survive without a few minutes of air. Sleep is very, very important. We can't survive without a few days without sleep. Water is critical. We can't survive. I think I looked through and I found maybe people can survive 7, 8, 9 days without water. Food is important. Exercise is important. Appropriate supplementation, just like Dr. McKnight said, it supplements a healthful diet and lifestyle. Interaction with others, and additionally, service to others. So those are some of the fundamentals, and each one of us has to be worked on. Obviously, today we're concentrating on the greatest molecule in the world, water. This water runs every part of our body. Every system in our body works with water or through water, or water interacts. Water works, it helps something as simple as lubricate our joints. It also helps by taking nutrients in, absorbing them, utilizing them, and it facilitates the waste removal of nutrients. It also balances temperature. Our body is 98.6, but cells start to die at 104, 105, 106 temperature. And the working muscles, if you work out, 20 times more heat is generated. So what the body does through the water, it takes the heat, distributes it from the blood through the skin as sweat. So water is critical to every element of our health. Now, all of us are familiar with this diagram, and it shows how the biggest component in our body is water. And we can see on the left, water is about 75%. The thing that bothers me about these diagrams is that every time I see something with water, it's either like an invisible man that has, right? Or the second guy over there has no skin. And so I look for something, these people don't have any clothes. So I'm not quite sure how it works, but you can see as you move from right to left that one thing we know is that the younger you are, the more body water you have. And I always also wondered, if I turn that slide upside down, would all the water come up to the head? The answer is no. It doesn't work that way, okay? How it does work is the following. Water is compartmentalized in the body. So some of the water is in what they call extracellular fluid over here. These two are extracellular fluid. This is in the blood, and this is in the fluid around the cells. So that's extracellular, outside of the cell. The other component of water is inside the cell. So there's two. Outside the cell, extracellular, which is in the blood and the fluid around, and intracellular fluid, which is the water inside the cell. Another way of looking at it is like this. Here is the extracellular fluid, the red, with water in the blood vessels. This is, well, it's supposed to be bluish green. That is the extracellular fluid, or interstitial fluid. And then the fluid in the cell is the fluid in the cell, intracellular fluid. Okay, so that's how it's compartmentalized. So it's either blood, interstitial fluid, or intracellular fluid. Those are the compartments that we see fluid in. Now that's true with adults and children. Now let's take a look and see whether the properties of Kangen water with alkaline and antioxidant, we're going to focus on just these two parameters to see how that fits with the compartments. Just to remind everybody about the pH. pH, another way of saying that, is power of hydrogen. Has everyone heard that before? Power of hydrogen or potential of hydrogen? It's kind of a nice way of thinking about it. And mathematically, it's inversely related. So the higher the pH, the lower the hydrogen. So it's inversely related. Higher pH, lower hydrogen. Conversely, the lower the pH, the more acidic, the higher hydrogen. That's just a simple kind of explanation. Additionally, the antioxidant activity, we're all familiar with oxidation. You've heard about it ad nauseum. The bottom line is oxygen is around us, it's metabolized, it's broken down. Some of the byproducts of oxygen metabolism as it's broken down are something called free radicals or reactive oxygen species, and all we need to know about that is that it causes cell damage, heart disease, cancer, and premature death. And all an antioxidant does is fight that. Okay? Is everyone with me so far? Okay, good. One person. I'm kidding, I'm just joking. Okay. Are you the skeptic from last night? No kidding. I don't know if anyone heard that last night. Okay, so there's different types of antioxidants. I won't go into it too much. But the bottom line is there's enzymatic, which means like superoxide dismutase, glutathione, catalase. And then there's also non-enzymatic, which includes some of the nutrients like vitamins A, C, and E. So there's different antioxidants that we naturally have in the body. So let's take a look at the various components and see. Well, if we take a look at the red component in an adult or a child, interestingly enough, it's alkaline. The pH is 735 to 745. And it has antioxidant activity. Bingo. Let's take a look at the interstitial fluid. That's the gray-green area around the cell. Well, that also is alkaline, 734 to 740, and it has antioxidant properties as well. What about in the cell, in the yellow? Now, the yellow is a little different. It's got alkaline pH predominantly. It's a little low in some areas, a little higher in other areas. It sounds like the weather report. But the bottom line is that the reason why it's a little varied is simply because the cell has many components. It's got the ribosomes, it's got endoplasmic reticulum, it's got the nucleolus, it's got the nuclei, many different components. And because of that, pH may vary. But it also has antioxidant activity. So that's in adults and in children. Well, as we go from right to left, we've heard about when you're older, perhaps, there's less body water. And as you're younger, there's more body water, right? We've all heard that. Everyone heard that, correct? Well, what happens in a fetus? Well, interestingly enough, and I have to bring this in, I'm a women's health specialist, and I just like to try to bring one or two messages to you about that. And that is, a fetus has the same properties of, in the blood, the interstitial, intercellular components of the water. So the water is also in the blood vessel, it's also around the cell, and it's in the cell. And it's got the same pHs and the same antioxidant activity in the fetus. What's different about the fetus? It's got amniotic fluid around it. Interesting, right? So that's another component, amniotic fluid. Well, I decided to get dressed up and go to the store, buy a bottle of amniotic fluid, and see whether there's antioxidant and alkaline properties in the amniotic fluid. Everyone has been to the store and you see bottles. Sometimes they have it on sale. I think it's buy one, get one free. So, you haven't seen that? Oh, okay. So anyway, so here's a fetus. And interestingly enough, here's the amniotic fluid. Look at that pH, alkaline. Now, it doesn't work. I tried to find this. Well, guess what? At maybe 7 months, the pH is 7.5. At 8 months, it's 8.5. At 9 months, it's 9.5. Haven't seen that yet. Wouldn't that be interesting? Haven't seen that, but not yet. Additionally, the amniotic fluid has antioxidant activity as well. It's present in the second trimester, and it increases with gestational age. So isn't that convenient? The water around us. So how do the adults and children get water? We use our Kangen water system. We drink it. What about the baby? Well, the fetus, they're bathing in it. I call this the Kangen birth canal. Okay, it's just sitting there floating around, having fun in the amniotic fluid, right? Well, look at that. Here's another picture. There's the fetus, having a good old time, reading Proust and drinking amniotic fluid. All this black area is amniotic fluid. When you do amniocentesis or you do a sonogram, you can actually see the amniotic fluid enveloping the entire baby. And if you take a really look careful, you can see the 9.5 and the 4.5 spigots up at the top there. Everyone see that? I find that very interesting, how they put that, how God put that there. Okay, well, the question is, which came first? Did the amniotic fluid come first with the alkaline and antioxidant properties, or did Kangen water come first? Well, I'm not sure, but if you look really carefully, I've done thousands and thousands of deliveries in my life, and I took a look really closely, and I noticed that this is right on the baby's buttocks. This whole area here, if you look really closely, if anyone has pregnant, you see that, look at the baby. I think there's a mom who has a nursing back there. You may have known that. So I think that's very interesting. So what we talked about, as I'm trying to close up here, is mind, body, and spirit. How do we achieve optimum health? We balance and work on mind, body, and spirit. How do we do that? With the 10 fundamentals we talked about: spirituality, attitude, air, sleep, water, diet, exercise, supplementation, interaction with others, and also community service. Water is a critical component of our health and others and the community. We are perfused with Kangen water properties in all the different water components throughout the whole body. Post-birth, what do? We drink it. Pre-birth, we can bathe in it. How convenient, right? Now, Mr. Shiro added a financial component to this package. This is the Japanese symbol for water. And he talks about return to origin. Not only from the financial leg, which is rerouting the profits back to the distributors, but also, whether we're talking about Lourdes or Teocote or Nordno, various other ways that we can have natural sources to return to the source that we have when we drink, but also in the amniotic fluid, interesting enough, which is the ultimate return. So, I hope I have this right. Okarada o taisetsu ni, which is please take care of yourself. I want each one of you to have a successful and healthful life in your business and with your family and friends in the community. Thank you very, very much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. Come on, everybody. Give him another round of applause. Was that fun? Is this guy a comedian? Just a little bit. Thank you so much. We're so blessed. Once again, we're blessed to have such talent with an MD behind it. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.